cracking, mi gente? This your boy D once again, coming back to you guys after a little time off that I was forced to take due to my hospitalization. I was out for a little bit. I'm still at home. I just came back home. I'm doing well, but there's some obstacles here and there. So you guys know sometimes I get winded if I talk too much. So I'll try to speak a little bit of slow. So if that doesn't happen, you guys get the whole gist on what I'm about to do. As you guys know, we're here to drop a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of love. With that being said, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell notification for future fire content. You guys already know how we do it, man. Let's get into this topic. So today's topic is gonna be about MS13 as an organization and the difference between the penal system in El Salvador and the penal system here in California, because there's a lot of people that doesn't understand. They have questions like, well, if you guys doesn't program with 18 streeters down there, you guys got your own prison, then why you guys do it here in California? So I will try to break it down as much as I can with the knowledge that I have, what I've been given, plus what I also did in my little research, because I had to look in a couple facts. With that being said, let's get into it, man. So it is true. MS13 and 18th Street, at least in El Salvador, I will speak behalf of El Salvador. I know Guatemala and Honduras have the same protocols, but I will only speak of the motherland because that's where I have a little bit more knowledge to. But I know Guatemala and Honduras also implement the same things. MS13 and 18th Street, they have their own prisons. They're being kept away, at least before Bukele came in there, before the new president of El Salvador came in. They were kept separated. There was a time when they did a truce, but they were not integrated. They kept the truce in their certain prospective penitentiaries. They never got mixed up. They never had to deal with one another unless they were doing press conference, which is a whole nother ball game. But there was a truce around 2014, 2015. So, but they never got integrated. So the reason why those system works over there like that was because the war was on full blast. So if you put an 18th Street in a tank with 15 MS13, the answer you're gonna get is they're gonna kill the dude. Just like if you put MS13 in a tank with 15 18th Streeters, they're gonna get dealt with. So the prisoners in El Salvador, they decide to separate it instead of having to deal with riots, with violence. So they decide to give them their own prison, which to some people is gonna be insane, but that's how much the power also flew throughout the country. You have to understand, MS13 and 18th Street, there are organizations big in El Salvador. Those organizations have moved money throughout many years, dealing with cartels, dealing with other individuals. So they also had the means to make deals with the government, and they used to do so, especially when they were allowed to get TVs, Xbox, conjugal visits, and all type of crazy stuff. So you got to keep in mind the penal system over there works a little bit different. Over there, people don't have to be approved to come see you, and the visitings have over there, the people that run the visiting is basically the people that's running the inside of the jail. So as I was told, basically, if a MS13 has a visit, the people, the porter in the visiting room will let another homeboy know in the recreation yard that so-and-so has a visit and give him a quarter to make sure he goes get him. That individual will run up there to find whatever homeboy had a visit, let him know he has a visit, then the homeboy will come down and go to his visiting. And over there, if you could get away with it, most of the times out of 10 you will get away with it because the police didn't really come in their visiting room. They had like a little curtain where you could go in the room and do your thing with your woman. Nobody was allowed to interrupt you. You were allowed to get your 15, 20 minutes, whatever, walk out to allow the next homeboy to come in there. So that wouldn't take much time. So it happens throughout the years like that. Now, as you guys are aware, Najib Bukele, the new president, went to war with the gangs. He imprisoned most of these so-called terrorists, as he calls them. And now he got a big prison, which he calls the mega prison, where what he done is he integrated both of them to show his power. It's just a pure power move. He had put them in there and literally basically told them, you guys ain't gonna got nothing coming unless you guys get along. And that's what's being done. Then individuals don't even have a blanket or a mattress to lay on. They get their meals. They are repetitive, consist of rice, bean, and hard-boiled eggs, and whatever they get at lunch and dinner, which it might be the same as breakfast, but they get that every day for breakfast. At least I know that for a fact. Rice and beans, hard-boiled eggs, and a tortilla or two. That's how they've been treating on this new prison. Now, if you ask, well, what's the difference when they come to California? Why the program changed so much? Well, the program changed a lot when they come to California due to the deal or pact or the earning of the 13 from MS13. You guys gotta remember, MS13 went through a whole ordeal back in the 90s. They got greenlighted many times. And when they used to greenlight MS, they used to greenlight every single click in LA. It was not like it is now. That whatever click is made the mistake, it got offended, then they have to deal with those consequences. But before, when the incident with the flag happened and the incident with the other issue, they will greenlight everybody. And a lot of homeboys didn't like that because they were like, we're paying for somebody else's mistake. So they came to some type of agreement with the senores. Now, whatever click messed up, the homeboy will be dealt with, and they will have to do what they have to do, pay the fine, you know how it is, and go from there. The difference between the California system is once they hit any California or federal system, the federal system, there always are California guys there from MS, LA, or whatnot. So they're run under the SUR program, which is a mandatory for any MS13 to come into the prison system, especially the state, and run into that program because of what people call those Southsiders. You know, that's a term they use to describe any Southerner person, the bangs, or is from the hood down south. It's not a real term that we used to use as, and excuse me if I say we, but what MS used to use as a term. We never used to refer to each other as Sureños or Southsiders. We used to be Southerners. And that was just the homies from down south. They used to say we're Southerners because they were from down south. The clique that we had over here in up north was a little bit more different. And the reason why is because our so-called enemy, as they used to define them back then, were norteños. So we used to be the más upstate sureños, even though we were from MS. But those terms only apply to MS-13 gang members while in prison. Now, 18th Streeter, they had a long history of being Southsiders or Sureños due to their affiliation and some of their barrios having señores. You have to understand, 18 always been a big barrio, mostly founded by Mexicans. So they had a señor before even MS were thought about having a señor. You have to understand something. MS was punished to the point where you wouldn't even allow to be in the MESA system if you were from the MS. And back in the 90s, you have to remember the early 80s, the late 80s, and the early 90s. We were deemed as others in prison. We were even deemed as Southsiders. The M didn't even want us at that time because of all the issues that had happened on the streets, especially when the Green Line. Plus, the system didn't deem us as Southsiders either. They deemed us as others. If you were Salvadorian, Honduran, Guatemalan, Cuban, Puerto Rican, you were deemed as other back then. So that transpired, and that's why a lot of homies used to use that term Southerners, because when they got blessed with the 13 after being earned, or whatever transpired, ball, whatever the situation might be, which I doubt it, to my knowledge, it was well earned, they start deeming us as Southerners. So they start using that term. But if you find an MS13A member with another MS13A member talking, you won't find them calling each other Southsider, Sureño, or Southerner. You will find the word using mareros, or homeboy, or carnal, brother. It just depends on the level of respect you guys have. But that's why the federal prison was a little bit different for two facts. The factions down East Coast didn't fall under the category of SUR, SUR program. The homeboys from down East Coast, they were just MS13. So they had a big issue when the homeboys from Cali used to try to push that program. And there always been a contest repeatedly issue with them having to push that program and that mentality towards them because of who they were surrounded by in the prison system. You have to understand, in the feds, there were senores walking the line. There were M members walking the line amongst them. So there was no way or waiting if a call needed to be made, something needed to be handled. They had those individuals around them. And a lot of homeboys had a lot of dealings with them. So they're falling back in line, following the SUR program, because there was much of a choice. If the respect of the homos will move on them. So they start falling into that program, following the rules, following the routine, just for the simple fact that none of them wanted to deal with the repercussions or having to deny a program that had been established from the hub, from LA. And that's the way they look at it. A lot of homeboys look at it. LA is the hub, so whatever the homeboys establish as a program, then that's what needed to be followed. So that was the difference. And in here, 18th Street in California, they always have represented the Sur. They have always claimed the Sur. They even went as far as making a barrio down in El Salvador called Sureño, 18th Street Sureños, or 18th Street Southsiders, I believe. Something to do amongst the line. They made it two different barrios over there. The 18th Streeters, which are the Salvadorian ones, they're born and made down in El Salvador. They got jumped in and all of that program. Then you had the old 18th Streeters that were Southside. Basically a different program from 9 times out of 10, somebody from California made it. They probably got deported and then they start pushing that Southside mentality down there. So they have two 18th Streets, at least in El Salvador, that I'm aware of. Two programs. Now here in California, since they have always followed the Sur due to their allegiance to the Mexican Mafia, when Puppet got made, which was a long time ago, they have always followed those rules in that program. They got so used to that when the homeboys integrated to become under that program, yeah, there have been fights between homeboys in the cell and 18th Streeters and issues and stuff like that in the yards. They've been like that, especially in the early stages. There was always an issue about maybe a homeboy having a 1-8 crossed up and they didn't like it. So only put the shirt back on or something and then they start fighting or disagreement or whatever. Or maybe even in disrespect, like the homeboy was on the phone with another homeboy and he forgot that he said he was 18 and said something disrespectful. Now they have an issue, they get down. So you don't see that many people sold up with their people that they have beef with on the streets. At least when I was in the system, I only had one celly from 18th Street. He was from the dirty South, South Central, but he was an older headed dude, a little bit more level headed. He was cool. So plus he was only myself for like a week. Then his homeboy moved him to another place because he was gonna get some work done on him. But so after that, I didn't have no cellies from that side. But the thing is that, see, when you're in the system, at least for us up north, Mareros, MS13 gang members, it was different because, see, the MS13 homeboys in LA, they beef with so many barrios down there, with so many hoods, that sometimes it's hard to keep track of it. So you might end up selling up with somebody that even shot at your homeboys or probably even kill one of your homeboys. And you might not realize until you ask them or who you guys are enemies. Sometimes to get that question in a conversation with your celly can be a little bit awkward. So sometimes I didn't even touch the subject just for the simple fact that I didn't want somebody to come at me the same way and I would have took it as disrespectful. Then now we have an issue. So that's the difference between a Salvador system and a California system. Here it's mandatory you fall into the SUR program. There's no buts and if. If you try to go against the grain, you get handled with. It doesn't matter if you don't like the program. It doesn't matter if you don't agree with the program. That's just the way it is. And El Salvador is different because they got their own whole prisons, whole yards that they can do whatever they want. And they don't have to worry about it. But see, also you have to take into consideration the risk fact that go take into place. In El Salvador, they have so many ways to make weaponry that sometimes the weaponry stock, the weapons they use look like machetes or might look like bigger than a bone crusher. Their system is a little bit more dangerous because the police doesn't really come into the pabellones or to the yards. So if somebody got to get dealt with, they're not going to find that person until maybe the next day. If they're lucky, they probably find him while he's still breathing. But 9 times out of 10, if you look at the news, if you look at the facts, it's like when they do removals, they actually kill those people. They don't have no buts or if. So that's a big fact to take in consideration. The police doesn't really go into the yards. They're running different. They don't have to answer to señores or to hierarchies. They only answer to the homeboys that are shot callers from their region. So that plays a big part of it. And in California, it's a whole different system. You follow the SUR, you gotta follow whatever they tell you, and you listen to meseros, llaveros that you might not agree with their calls, or you might not like them, but those are the people that are making the decisions for you guys. And in El Salvador, homeboys are making decisions for homeboys, which they're always gonna try to look for the benefit of them to make sure they're safe or do whatever they have to do. And here it's a little bit more irky because California system has shown us that MS13 are not like for nothing, basically. If you messed up one time in the prison system, in California prison system, and you're from the mess and you have somebody on the table that doesn't like you out of there. There's no buzz and if. There's not gonna look into, oh, that's the homeboy, he had done this, he had done this. There's no fact. So That's the difference between the prison system in El Salvador and here. Over there, they're not obligated to listen to nobody else but their homeboy shot caller. Here is a mando thing you have to follow and guide the SUR program. You don't have no choice once you come into the penal system. The feds have become the same until now that this issue took place, the issues that took place, and those places, Bowman or the other places, now they're split up. They got their own little yard, the homeboys. They're trying to get integrated, but it's not being allowed. Plus, they're programming on their own little yard. So the division has already been done. The split already happened. People might not want to believe it, but that's the way it is. But MS13 as a whole is a bigger entity. It's a bigger organization. And that's the reason why a lot of people doesn't like it. Because I don't think the MS thought the MS will get that big. And now, in order for them to keep some type of control of it, what they do is they give us a member and have them control the peasants. That's the way it was put, basically. Because to a lot of people, that's how they would look at the homeboys, like peasants, which is a messed up word to use, but I have heard it from many mouths before. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people got that messed up thinking. So that's where the problem comes in. I hope you guys got a better understanding how the prison system runs in El Salvador and why the California system it is the way it is. I hope you guys like the video. I will follow through with another one regarding how MS13 being portrayed by the news and why they think all Salvadorans are a bunch of monsters. I'll follow with the video. Hope you like it. Leave a comment. You already know, like I always say, let's get it.